As the years have gone by, Netflix's Witcher series has gotten worse and worse. Recasts, rewrites, moving further away from the source material has truly damaged this show to the point of no return. There's no way that they could save it going into the last season. But now that season 4 is out and we only have one more to go, this show is basically hated by everybody. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I actually thought season 1 of this was pretty good. Sure, it wasn't the most accurate to the source material, but it was still entertaining. It was still fun. It was still pretty well acted. Season 2, I thought was still a decline in quality, but not as bad as the jump from season 3 and season 4. Those two seasons were absolutely atrocious. I hated them. And now that season 4 is out, basically everybody hates it, and rightfully so. They went on and on about how it's more faithful to the source material and they're really trying to make fans happy with this season. And that was a complete and utter lie. They did the worst job possible. The recasts did not work. You have new cast members brought on, pretty big and prominent actors like Lawrence Fishburne, who I do think did an okay job as Regis, but the issue is that a amazing actor can still only do so much with a terrible script, and that's what they gave him. These people do not know the source material, they do not know the books, they don't even know the video games, and if they initially went into this having the mentality of trying to follow the games closer than the books, because yes, I do think that they are quite different, that still would have been okay, because people still would have been getting some sort of adaptation of some Witcher product, but that's not what they did. They went into this with the worst mindset possible, and that was basically fuck the fans, and they are getting absolutely annihilated for it. The all critics score is sitting at a 60, which is very generous, but the top critic score is sitting at a measly 33%. Now, I personally do not trust the critics. I generally don't care about what they have to say, and the audience scores are where this gets really bad for Netflix, because the score is sitting at a 19%, and this isn't some negative review bomb. This isn't some group of toxic bigots giving it bad scores. It's Witcher fans giving this shallow, really mediocre, honestly terrible Witcher adaptation the bad scores because it deserves a 19%. It really freaking does. So heading on over to what users are saying, like a cringe fever dream, plot holes, weird pacing, and they axed Vesemir. At this point, I trust the monsters more than the writers. The Vesemir situation pissed me off to no end because he is alive in the books, but in Witcher 3, they did decide to kill him, but Ciri is there. Geralt isn't there, Yennefer isn't there, and I thought it would have been perfectly fine to have him die in this show if Ciri was there, because it's used as a catalyst and such an emotionally impactful moment for her, and I think that in the games, this is my interpretation of it, that is where she really starts to take shit seriously. This is where she says, I either have to step up to the plate or more people I love are going to die, because that was her mentor and one of her father figures, same as Geralt. And in this show, not only does he die in an absolutely horrendous way, and Yennefer's the one there, not like she really cared about him ever, but you have this scene where Yennefer and Geralt finally get together, and she's like, yeah, Vesemir's dead. And he doesn't frown, he doesn't cry, he doesn't like get up and pace around, and he's really angry and he's like hitting stuff with his sword. He doesn't show any emotion. And Lauren Hisrich had said, oh, he's a much more emotionally intense Geralt this season with Liam's spin on the character. And that is a moment where I could see him actually getting really upset and giving that depth to the character. Nope. He just kind of sits there, and then it's not brought up again. Absolutely abysmal. That is honestly one of the worst points of this season by far. The other worst part, in my opinion, was at the start, they tried to get you to forget about Henry Cavill by showing multiple scenes throughout each season and CGIing Liam Hemsworth's face onto Henry Cavill. So, like at the end of season 1, where Yennefer, Ciri, and Geralt are all finally together, they CGI Liam's face over Henry Cavill's, as if that's going to make it any better, as if that's going to get us to forget about Cavill. Cavill was amazing. Sure, he still wasn't the same as Geralt in the games or the books, but his take on Geralt was still really good, and he looked the part. And when he was around in season 1, I thought that he did help elevate the quality. Now, in season 2 and season 3, they stopped really listening to him. At that point, they wanted him off the show, so they weren't listening to his suggestions. But they should have, because he really made season 1 very special. And it's so sad to see something that could have been as big as Game of Thrones be taken and butchered by people. If they actually hired fans, this could have turned out to be half decent. I'm so triggered over this. My God. Liam Hemsworth makes for an anemic casting of The Witcher, as awkward to watch as Steve Rogers before the super serum. Whether suffering from a shoestring budget or poor directing, season 4 lacks the gloomy atmosphere and intense world building found in the previous seasons. Wigs and costumes look like they are from Spirit Halloween and are far too clean. Since season 2, it has become one of the worst fantasy shows out there. Sheer mockery of the source material, can't recommend to anyone. And of course, they do race swap several characters, and one issue is Missile. So if you don't know, in the books, the rats do show up, and of course, they're not like the merry band of DEI squad, but they decided to race swap Missile in this, and she basically becomes Ciri's black lesbian lover, which in the books, Ciri's like 14 or 15, and Missile rapes her. And I felt like it wasn't as emotionally impactful in this, but they also go on to show like almost a loving relationship between the two of them, where in the books, Ciri was basically just so desperate to not be alone at that point. She's like, yeah, I guess I'll stay with them. But they butchered that relationship, or they turned it into a relationship, I suppose I should say, because they wanted, representation on the screen, which definitely was not the best choice if you're trying to tell people, hey, we're being more accurate to the material. After the first season, there were already many doubts as to whether the Witcher series could be an adaptation worthy of its book counterpart. While there's still some hope after the first installment, the second season completely buried the series. What is more, is this happened not only in terms of the book adaptation, but also as an adventure fantasy TV series for those unfamiliar with the books. It's an American low-cost fantasy. Sadly, it wasn't going for another season, and it actually is. It's getting one more. It's getting season 5, but I don't really know what they plan to do in it at this point to save it. I think they're just kind of going to push it out because they already filmed it. They filmed 4 and 5 simultaneously. Why did they do this to my favorite TV show? Simply awful from the very first minute. Redoing key scenes with Hemsworth was a terrible move and won't make us forget the depth Cavill brought to the character. And again, even critics are generally saying they dislike it, and I don't necessarily trust them, but it is interesting to see. The Guardian's 2-star review saw critic Sarah Dempster describe Hemsworth as being as charismatic as a ballard in a wig. The tone remains wildly uneven, lurching as it does between steeple-fingered Game of Thronesy gloominess and those early 90s Saturday afternoon series in which an uncommunicative hunk wanders between small communities, rescuing imperiled innocents from baddies while learning about the true meaning of friendship. So, Film described the season as the epitome of squandered potential. Writing The Witcher Season 4 makes some inexcusable decisions in terms of character fates. Major characters are killed off way too early and robbed of their narrative purpose, and integral character moments are transposed for no reason whatsoever. They also basically did nothing with Geralt in this because they have him traveling around going, Ciri, 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 but on the way, he should be fighting monsters. Every episode, there should be a new battle, a new monster, a new dilemma that he's going through, and that really doesn't happen, and that really ticks me off too. There's a reason why Geralt has been the main character of the games up until Witcher 4, and there's a reason why so many people love him, and he has so much potential. You could just have him fighting one monster every episode, and people would be like, hell yeah, this is badass. At least Geralt is doing something, but he basically does nothing because, of course, this is a feminist Witcher. They want to make the females the lead characters, and it is so sad to see them put the least amount of effort into this possible. Radio Times said as Cavill's absence looms large over a story weighed down by uneven writing and tone, plus questionable performances and production design, it's clear that Netflix's flagship fantasy series has lost its magic. I don't even really know if it ever had the magic. I still liked season 1, but it wasn't the best adaptation possible, and it's just sad that they did have a good foundation for what could have been an amazing series. I actually felt this way about The Force Awakens too. I thought that if they had actually built off of those performances, it could have turned into something good. Was it my favorite Star Wars movie ever? No, but it had that potential, and The Witcher had potential too, but they completely squandered it. So yeah, right now it is being raked across the coals by basically everybody, and I can't say that I feel all that bad given they disrespected Cavill and the source material. They gave fans the finger, and now their series is absolutely getting destroyed. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.